Okay, welcome everyone. Hello, my name is Jenna Bracho. If you haven't been here before, we talk about health, fitness, wellness, all of the above. Today, I'm gonna really discuss like women's health and how it's impacting like our young girls and you know, um, women maybe trying to conceive or anything like that. So today's topic is going to be on birth control. Erica and I, my co-host on Girls to Queens podcast, we just recorded an episode on this yesterday, so it'll be airing on Friday. I'll be sure to put that in the show notes. And yeah, let's dive right in. So I want to kind of discuss the um history of birth control, and then we'll kind of go into some solutions of like how you can kind of get your menstrual cycle on par and just like really in tune with how your body is feeling and what it needs during each of those phases of your menstrual cycle. So let's discuss like the history of it. So for those of you who are, currently on an oral contraceptive, birth control, I think it's important for us to go over the history of birth control because a lot of us don't really know the dark history of it. I personally have never been on. I don't plan on ever going on it. I know my mom hasn't, my sister, we're, all on board with that. So in 1914, believing that enforced motherhood is the most complete denial of, a woman's right to life and liberty. And I could see like, in that time and that era, how this would play out. However, there was a public health nurse, her name is Margaret Sanger, and she coined the term birth control. And she began her long decade campaign of making contraceptives legal and available to women in America. For those of you who don't know Margaret Sanger and her history, I definitely recommend looking her up. She is what one would call a eugenicist, and a eugenicist is someone who basically wants to extinguish those who are not fit and not qualified under their eyes or their guidelines to live on this earth. So basically, she wanted to get rid of half the population. It was more of the overpopulation for her, where she was thinking, oh, in these, in these low socioeconomic environments and low socioeconomic areas, she basically wanted to provide these oral contraceptives, hence where Planned Parenthood came into play. So I would do your research on that because it is pretty dark and it's kind of crazy. So now let's fast forward 1953. She needed this to come to play. She needed somebody else to help her create this oral contraceptive, the pill. So in 1953, biologists John Rock and Gregory Pincus team up to develop the birth control pill. And it was funded by $2 million from philanthropist Catherine Dexter McCormick. Because state laws were prohibiting contraceptive research, it made it extremely difficult for them to set up trials. So what they did was they first tested it out on patients that were male and female in Worcester State Psychiatric Hospital in Massachusetts. Then they went to Puerto Rico, and because they viewed, these are their words, not mine, these people and specifically the women as poor and unintelligent, they set up their labs there and they did testing on the women there. Okay, fast forward 1960. The first oral contraceptive, Enovid, it was a mixture of progesterone and estrogen and was approved by US Food and Drug Administration, the FDA. It became known as the pill. Now we start to see repercussions because of the concoction and the chemicals, this synthetic hormone that were going into these women's bodies, and they were seeing adverse reactions. So in 1970, a publicized congressional hearing of feminists challenged the safety of the contraceptive pill. So afterward, the hormones in the pill were then changed to a fraction of the original dosage. And then from there, obviously the 1970s was this feminist movement, and it just like took like this snowball effect into like this huge thing. So that's pretty much the dark history of the birth control pill. And so here we are today, and we have women and young girls who are being prescribed this at a super young age, and they don't know the repercussions of it. They don't know the side effects of it. I have friends that have been on birth control like 10 plus years. And now, I'm at the age where our friends are trying to conceive, and they're having issues because of being on the pill for so long. So let's discuss kind of like our menstrual cycles, and like as women, what we should be really focused on, because if we can hone into like our natural cycles and how it should be, then we really won't have as many issues and fertility issues. And, I understand why parents would put their young girls on, because they're like, oh, we don't want her to get pregnant. But it comes down to risk versus reward. So is it like, oh man, like I don't want my daughter to get pregnant, but at the same time, like, is it worth her health? Like, why not have the conversation of other ways to prevent that? So, okay. Let's go into the 4 phases of the menstrual cycle. So we have our menstrual phase, our follicular phase, our ovulation phase, and luteal phase. And each of these requires different needs of movement, food, recovery, and really just tuning into how your body feels, because every single person, every single female is different. What I need is not going to be what you need. So, you just have to pay attention to your signs and like knowing your body, like the back of your hand, being aware. So now this is actually pretty interesting. I have some research here. Actually, let's go into some of the risks in terms of being on birth control for a while. So it seems like that 5-year mark is where you start to see like some serious health adversities. So in one study, this was in 2017, a large prospective Danish study reported breast cancer risks associated with more recent formulations of oral contraceptives. Or overall, women who are using or had recently stopped using oral combined hormone contraceptive had a modest, about 20% increase in a relative risk of breast cancer compared with women who had never used oral contraceptives. Now, the risk increase varied from 0 to 60%, depending on the specific type of oral combined hormone contraceptive. The risk of breast cancer also increased the longer you took the oral contraceptive, which makes sense. So the longer you're on it, the higher the risk. Now let's go over cervical cancer. Women who have had oral contraceptive for 5 or more years have had a higher risk of cervical cancer than women who have never used oral contraceptives. The longer a woman uses oral contraceptive, the greater the increase in her risk of cervical cancer. In one study, they found a 10% increased risk for less than 5 years of use, a 60% increased risk with 5 to 9 years of use, and a doubling of the risk with 10 or more years of use. However, the risk of cervical cancer has been found to decline over time after women stopped using this oral contraceptive. So risk versus reward, is it really worth it at the end of the day? I think there's other ways to go about, not getting pregnant. So now on the other flip side, it's like, now we have all of these other issues that are coming along. So there was one TED talk that spoke about, there is a combined meta-analysis of, I think, like 33 plus research studies, which has been done over the last couple decades. So when we change a woman's sex hormone, we change the brain as well. So when you have higher levels of progesterone, that actually, from oral contraceptive, the pill, the birth control pill, it's actually a sexual inhibitor, and it decreases the levels of your estrogen and testosterone. Now, they did a study over decades of women who were on birth control versus their naturally cycling peers. So this actually influenced who women were attracted to. So the women who were on birth control for a longer period of time, it lowered their levels of estrogen, and it predicted the amount of testosterone in their male counterpart. So basically, when they had two pictures up, one was more of a testosterone male. So, sharper jawline, Adam's apple, beard, more like masculine features versus a more softer look in a man. The women who were on the birth control pill actually chose their male counterpart, who had more of the feminine features. So that shows us that it really changes your brain chemistry, which is like so like incredible that we're even exposed to all of this research, which is fascinating. And not only that, but women who are on the pill have an absent cortisol response to stress, which causes structural changes in the brain in a negative way. So that means that these echoing issues that are happening, it is a trickle down effect to other people that you're interacting with on a day-to-day basis, which is not good. So that I'm gonna put the show notes. I'll put these studies in the show notes. It's like really intriguing. I definitely recommend everybody looking at this. So now let's go into the symptoms of birth control. It's nausea, headaches, stomach pain, fainting, bleeding, cancer, weight gain, dizziness, infertility, decreased libido, eye change, blood clots, cardiovascular issues, mood swings, increased risk of stroke. So again, risk versus reward. Is it really worth like going on something that could really pose like all of these negative issues? And like, I don't think so. So, I mean, I think it's really important that a lot of women take those steps in really like evaluating, like, is it worth being on this just for, I know a lot of women also go on it, and young girls, because they tell their OBGYN, hey, like I'm having like these really bad PMS symptoms, and like my period's really bad. Fertility health is everything. So in women and females, if your fertility health is a sure indicator of your overall health. So, let's some solutions, some things to go over. Obviously diet. So there's specific foods and micronutrients, which means vitamins and minerals, to look into when you're going through your menstrual cycle, which I highly suggest. Erica and I are going to do like a part 2 episode on that. So stay tuned for that. Lifestyle, of course, like how's your stress? Stress really poses a huge issue, and oxidative stress on your body, and how your menstrual cycle really is that month. So you also want to think of different vitamins. So like magnesium, iron, B12. There's something called Cruciferous Complete. I actually take it. It's amazing. It helps with if you have like higher levels of progesterone, which does like kind of really create bad PMS. I'm not affiliated with them, but this is through standard process, Cruciferous Complete. I take this when I'm close to getting my menstrual cycle. There's a lot of research on heating pads. This helps with really bad cramps. It helps to obviously relax like your uterine walls, which is how you get cramps. Some essential oils. This would be like lavender, peppermint, rose, fennel. You can do like a red raspberry leaf tea, nettle leaf tea. Milk thistle is really great. Acupuncture. I highly suggest all of these things before you go into, being prescribed birth control, really like ask your doctor, like, hey, have you like, what are the symptoms and the risks of this? If they tell you nothing, you should run and get a new OBGYN. And also you can look into naturopathic doctors, integrative naturopathic doctors, functional medical doctors. You can go to both. I do both. So yeah, that's pretty much what we discussed, and I wanted to like really put this out there because I think it's a really important subject for young girls and women to really think about and do your research, like just listen to my side, what Erica has to say, and other women who have like been on it and then came off of it and had really negative effects after and really suffered. So really like pay attention. And that is all I got for you today. So I will attach all this stuff in the show notes. Don't forget to, if you really like this information, subscribe, follow, share, and that's all I got. So until next time, bye.